What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest episode of WWE Ride Along entitled Love and Smoke, featuring the duo of Mandy Rose and Otis, as well as the Street Profits and the current Raw Tag Team Champions Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Of course, this was filmed a while back, not too long ago. This was only early March, the date of the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Philly. So they're driving from their hotel in Philly to the arena for the pay-per-view that night. It would be cool to see, I'll mention this at the end of the episode as well, it would be cool to see them film another one of these episodes when they're driving from their homes in Orlando or wherever they live in Florida, Tampa, to the Performance Center for the Raw SmackDown show. Now, that might not be adhering to social distancing or whatever. I mean, I guess if you're sitting in a car across from each other, that's okay. But that would be kind of cool since we probably won't get any new content like this for a while. I assume they're not filming any new episodes of Table for Three or any of that other stuff, just because they usually do a lot of that over WrestleMania weekend, and since WrestleMania weekend didn't really happen as normal this year, they don't really have any of that content, so they got to make do. It would be cool to see them do an episode like that, driving from their homes. I mean, it might be a 5-minute episode, but it's better than nothing. Just to see them drive from their Tampa home to the Performance Center, just an idea. So to kick off the episode, we see Heavy Machinery backstage at a WWE show, which is where Otis reveals to Tucker that he will not be riding with him on this episode of Ride Along. They've been on Ride Along before, as have Mandy Rose and Sonya together as Fire and Desire. Now it's solely Otis and Mandy Rose. And at this point, this was right after the Valentine's date went wrong, and Dolph was dating Mandy, and Otis was on the kind of the outside looking in type of thing. So it didn't really make sense storyline-wise. Yes, they are together now, but at the time this was filmed a month and a half ago, they were not yet an item. So I thought that was kind of weird. But again, it doesn't really matter. They're not really talking about how, this happened a month and a half ago. They're obviously airing it now because they're currently an item coming out of WrestleMania 36. So anyway, they're all headed to Elimination Chamber, that pay-per-view in Philly that same day. The Street Profits car trunk filled with red Solo cups, and they spill out all out on the ground when they open the trunk to the car to put their luggage inside. And thankfully, they cleaned it all up. I think Montez Ford put one of the red Solo cups on a tree branch on the outside, which I believe stays there because you could see it through the window when they're driving away. But they cleaned up all the other red Solo cups on the ground because there's a car driving behind them to record them and whatever, and you don't see the red Solo cups on the ground anymore. So Otis picks up Mandy at her hotel in a tux. He's got a red rose, obviously pun intended for Mandy Rose, and he's wearing a tux but no shirt. Typical Otis. He talked about how he barely got his license back in the day because he just was never a great driver. Meanwhile, in the Street Profits car, Angelo Dawkins is driving, and then they head off towards the arena. Otis has no idea where he's going. The Street Profits talk about when they first met back in the day 4, 5, 6 years ago back at the Performance Center, and how it was during a Dusty Rhodes acting class, a promo class at the PC. And Ford, I guess, was wearing moccasins, and they made fun of him for that, and that was really how him and Dawkins bonded, I believe, at that point in time. They didn't start to become an on-air, they were teaming for a while, I believe, on the NXT house show circuit, but they didn't become an item on TV. They didn't become a tag team on NXT TV until 2017. Anyway, Otis talks about his first impression of Mandy and how he was just head over heels, and a lot of this is Otis in character, which is funny, but you do kind of see his actual accent bleed through at certain parts in the episode, which is kind of funny too. But he talks about how when he first met Mandy years ago at the PC when they were both down in NXT, he would make sound effects every time he saw her. So he tried not to be weird, but she picked up on how he was calling her Mandy Candy when they first started, when they first became friends or they first met back at the PC years ago in NXT. The Street Profits then reminisce on winning the Evolve Tag Team titles a few years ago, the NXT Tag Team Championship a year ago, and then the Raw Tag Team titles as recently as last month. And watching that moment, seeing them win the Tag Team titles, it was at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Great match, great reaction. Really, I mean, not that the whole situation worked out for the better, because it didn't, with the whole pandemic happening and whatnot. But for their case specifically, it really worked out well. Whereas if WWE waited until WrestleMania to put the belts on the Street Profits, they wouldn't have got the same reaction because there would be no fans. Like McIntyre, it sucks he didn't get the grand celebration, but at least we got it if there's any upside to this current situation, we got it with the Street Profits right before they stopped running shows. It was on the second to last Raw before they had to cancel everything due to the coronavirus pandemic. It was at that second to last Raw with people in it at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So at least we got that reaction of nothing else, you know. But anyway, so they talk about their favorite segments as a tag team, including the SNL parody. Wasn't really for me personally. I thought it was a little dumb, but they had a lot of great segments down in NXT. I think it was called like Street Talk or something like that. They would film segments for that for NXT TV and for the WWE YouTube channel, for their social media channels and stuff like that. But their favorite segment, they said, was probably the therapy session segment that aired on Backstage a couple of months ago. I guess it's a recurring thing on the show. I don't watch every episode of Backstage. I only really watch when Punk's on. But they have this recurring segment where they have, a tag team or a specific superstar go into a therapy session with some, I don't know the name of the woman. She's someone notable, I believe. And they have like a mock therapy session. It's really funny. Anyway, Otis then compares Mandy Rose to Trish Stratus, and Mandy does indeed look at herself as the modern-day Trish Stratus. Otis then shares his story about seeing Trish in person for the first time at a WWE show when he was a kid like 10, 11, 12 years old. At the time, he was a really heavy kid, over 200 pounds, and he believed that when she was coming down to the ring and she did her usual entrance, that she was pointing at him. So he fell, again, head over heels over Trish Stratus, ran towards the ring, through the steps because he was probably high up, and he just got body checked by a security guard before he can make it to the, what's it called? The guardrail, or the whatever it's called, the side of the ring, where all the fans line up to get their hand clapped by that specific superstar. Before he can make it there, he got body checked by the security guard who saw him darting towards the ring, and he was like leaning up from the ground like, "Oh, Trish, get my hand," even though he was laying down on the ground. And Mandy asks Otis, "Have you ever told Trish that story in person?" And they do show a great shot of Trish backstage at one of these shows, probably last year at SummerSlam, and Otis like nods his head, says hi, whatever. But then he catches the camera looking at him, and he just gives it a death stare. It was so funny because he probably realized he was caught on camera, and I don't know. I just thought that was great, but that was a really funny story. Anyway, so where am I in my notes here? Angelo Dawkins then talks about becoming a father, as he has, I believe, a baby boy or a baby girl on the way. I don't believe his wife has given birth yet. I might be wrong, and she may have already, but this was only filmed a month and a half ago, so I'm not sure if it's already happened. But then Montez Ford talks about, not being a dad. I don't think him and Bianca have kids of their own. I think he has kids from another marriage, but they show shots of him with his family and with his mom and with his dad. Really cool stuff. So then after that, Montez Ford, he goes, "What's one thing you're worried about in becoming a father?" And Dawkins goes, "I'm afraid the homie ain't gonna like me." I thought that was a great quote. And Otis talks about, he asks Mandy, "What was your nightmare date? Like, what's a really bad date that you've been on? Aside from me," he said. "Before you met me," is what he said. And then before she can really give her answer, while she was thinking about it, he talks about how he was stood up once. How he went out to seafood or something like that, and he was supposed to be waiting for her, a lot like the Mandy Otis date on TV, and she just never showed up, and he never heard from her again. So poor Otis. He said, I don't know if him and his dad went on blind dates, or his dad set up blind dates for him, or just his dad went on the blind date. I don't know, but he said something about his dad and blind dates, which was hilarious as well. The Profits realized, hey, when in Philly, why not visit the iconic Rocky Steps? And they do so while wearing their Raw Tag Team title belts around their waists. Great scene here with them running up the steps Rocky style. Great stuff with the rip-off Rocky music in the background. So Otis and Mandy then take a horse and buggy to the arena. It was an open carriage, not with a closed. It wasn't a closed carriage, it was an open carriage, and he was still wearing the tux with no shirt, so everyone walking around in Philly could see Otis with no shirt on with a rose in his hand, or with Mandy had the rose in her hand, and Otis was just sprawled out with no shirt on and just the tux. Just a great visual. And they said they were taking that to the arena. They don't show them arriving at the arena. I assume they probably just went in a circle back to their car and they drove there, because they didn't actually show the horse and buggy showing up at the arena. It would have been nice if they did. I didn't see that happen. I assume it didn't, but anyway. Meanwhile, in the Street Profits car, we see Angelo and Montez playing Smoke or No Smoke. Would you do it? Would you not do it? They just go through a whole list of scenarios. Dawkins, during which point of playing this game, he reveals that he actually doesn't dance. That doesn't mean he can't dance, he admits, but he just doesn't like to dance, which is something I was surprised by it. You would think that Montez Ford is this great dancer. We see it on TV all the time. You would think that Angelo would love to dance too, but apparently not. Otis, not once but twice in the horse and buggy, farts in the car. The first time you can hear it. The second time, I don't think you can. You could probably just smell it the second time because he does bring it up, and he blames it on the horse. Maybe just the second time. I'm not sure about the first time. But the woman driving this horse and buggy catches onto it and it's like, oh yeah, blame the horse and I'm onto you, whatever. I thought that was great too. So Otis farting in a horse and buggy is really all that I wanted from this episode, and we got it. I thought that was really what made this episode for me. Mandy and Otis take a picture. They take a selfie while in the horse and buggy. The Profits arrive at the arena, hyping up the fans, and Montez Ford in the passenger seat and in shotgun, reaches out the window and starts partying with the fans at the window. And then that was about it. Mandy and Otis, we just see them riding off into the sunset to close out this episode of the heart appearing on screen saying happily ever after. Again, we don't actually see them arrive at the arena. I assume they just went back to their car. But it was a great visual nonetheless, especially with Otis having no shirt on and just a tux. I thought that was great. A very entertaining episode of Ride Along. Check it out right now on WWE Network. Like I said, they've had episodes before with just Heavy Machinery. They've had episodes before with just Fire and Desire, but never Otis and Mandy. They really made this episode entertaining. I mean, the Street Profits were great too, don't get me wrong, but if I'm telling you that Otis and Mandy were the better part of this episode than the Street Profits, who were always fun, that's telling you something. So definitely check out this episode when you get a chance right now on WWE Network. It's only about 20 minutes in length, so again, well worth checking out. That being said, guys, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. In the description box down below, you'll find a link to all my ride-along reviews, so check those out as well. And yeah, be sure to subscribe for more daily content coming here to the channel from here on out. We've had daily content going up every single day in 2020. Tomorrow and every day moving forward will be no different. So hit that subscribe button. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Enjoy your week going forward, starting tomorrow and Monday. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.